The stupidest thing I hear Nigerians say today is this: I'm not interested in politics. And they say it casually, as if politics is football or entertainment. But politics determines whether you eat, whether your children survive, whether your business grows or dies, whether your future even exists. In fact, politics affect your life more than religion does. Yeah. Because your pastor cannot stop inflation, your imam cannot lower fuel prices, your church cannot stabilize electricity, even your prayer group cannot reduce insecurity. As you and I are both witnesses, we see kidnappers going into churches, kidnapping people, kidnapping even pastors, killing worshippers. You and I are both witnesses to that. But politics controls all of it. And that is why 2027 may become the most important election in Nigeria's modern history. Because this is no longer just about Bola Ahmed Tinubu. No. This is about something far more dangerous. A dynasty. Not kings wearing crowns. Not military coups, but political systems becoming too powerful to remove. And history has shown us something terrifying. Once a structure becomes permanent, citizens slowly lose the ability to fight back. You see, dynasties do not begin with crowns. They begin with influence, networks, loyalty, fear, control. Gradually, one man becomes too connected to fail, too powerful to challenge, and too embedded to remove. And across Africa, we have seen this movie before. Look at Museveni. He became president of Uganda in 1986, as far back in 1986. At first, many people saw him as a reformer, a liberator, but decades later, he is still there. Entire generations of Ugandans has grown up knowing only one ruler. And over time, institutions adjusted themselves around him. Security agencies, political structures, state power, everything slowly became connected to one political machine. And once that happens, removing the system becomes harder than removing the man. Then there is Probia. Cameroon has had the same leader since 1982. I personally have not been born in 1982. Think about that. So entire generations we are born, became adults and had children under the same ruler. At some point, leadership stops feeling temporary. It starts feeling permanent. Then came Robert Mugabe, another liberation hero, another man a lot of folks once celebrated. But over time, power stayed too long. And when leaders stay too long, criticism becomes dangerous. Fear enters the system. People stop speaking honestly. Citizens begin surviving instead of participating. And then there is Togo, just down here in the backyard. Nasimwe Eyadema ruled for decades. When he died, power did not really leave his family. It moved to his son, Faure Nasimwe. That is how dynasties work. Not overnight, not suddenly, slowly, quietly, systematically. And Nigerians hear stories like this and say, can never happen here. But every country thought that at first. Every country believed their democracy was too strong until one day it wasn't. I have equally heard many Nigerians say something quite disturbing lately. You hear them say, forget 2027, the system is already done, or the APC or Tinubu have already perfected how power will remain where it is, or how they will remain in power. Probably they have already perfected how they will rig themselves back into power in 2027. And honestly, that mentality is dangerous because once citizens mentally surrender, democracy is already dying. The moment people stop believing change is possible, the system has already won psychologically. And this is why 2027 matters so much. Because first terms gives presidents power, then second terms build permanence. That is the dangerous stage. During the second tenure, institutions become more loyal, political appointments deepen, economic influence spread wider, fear increases, opposition weakens, and successors are prepared quietly. And political structures stop thinking in 4-year cycles. They start thinking in generations. That is how dynasties are born. Not with dramatic speeches, but with gradual normalizations. Slowly, citizens begin accepting things they once rejected. Slowly, people stop lowering expectations. Slowly, survival replaces hope. And that is the real danger, because it is easier to stop a dynasty from taking root than to uproot it after it's pressed into every institution. Imagine Nigeria in 2031, fuel prices even higher, the naira is weaker, and young people are leaving the country faster. Citizens are exhausted, and somehow the same political structure is still controlling everything. Different names, same network, same system, same power. That is how dynasties survive. Not because one man lives forever, but because the structure outlives the man. If Nigerians truly forget 2027, they might as well forget Nigeria itself, because democracy dies first in the mind before it dies in reality. Some Nigerians still say, I just want to hustle. Politics doesn't concern me, but politics will concern you eventually, because politics determines fuel prices. Politics affects dollar rate. Politics affects school fees. Politics affects internet regulations, taxes, employment, police brutality, electricity, transportation, food prices. You can ignore politics until politics start ignoring your suffering. And by then, it may already be too late. The price of political ignorance is always paid by ordinary people. Not the elites, not the powerful. Ordinary citizens. The people trekking under the sun. The people struggling to feed families. The people watching their dreams shrink every year. And you know what's most painful? Most Nigerian graduates no longer dream about success, they dream about escape. So Jaba is no longer just travel for many young Nigerians. It has become emotional surrender. And when the youth of a nation stop believing their future exists at home, that is a national emergency. One of Nigeria's biggest problems is that many citizens only become angry when suffering affects their tribe or their religion or their political side. But a broken country eventually humbles everybody. Eventually, inflation does not ask who you voted for. Now, listen carefully. This is not about worshipping politicians. It's not about treating activists or people who speak out like saints. That misses the point completely. Whether you support P2B or not, one thing he proved is that Nigerians are still capable of believing in something different. For a moment, millions of young people felt politically awake again. People who once felt hopeless suddenly felt involved. That matters. And whether you agree with Very Dark Man or not, he represents something very, very important too. anger, frustration, the voice of ordinary Nigerians who feel ignored. People are not just following personalities anymore. They are reacting to years of silence, years of hardship, years of feeling unseen. Different personalities, different methods, but both represent something dangerous to entrenched systems. Citizens are weakening because systems survives best when citizens are distracted or divided or hopeless. But once people begin asking hard questions, once citizens begin paying attention, once ordinary people stop accepting everything blindly, power becomes uncomfortable. And that is why voices like that of Very Dark Man matter in modern Nigeria. Not because they are perfect, no, but because they force conversations and societies die when citizens stop talking honestly. This video is not about hating Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's about understanding power. Because when power becomes too concentrated, nations stop breathing. History has shown us repeatedly, no country becomes trapped overnight. Citizens adjust slowly. Fear grows gradually. Silence spreads quietly until one day people wake up and realize the system has become too strong to challenge. And maybe that is why 2027 matters so much. Because this may be one of the last moments ordinary Nigerians still feel they can influence the future before political structures become deeply rooted. And if citizens become mentally defeated before the battle even begins, then the dynasty has already won. And maybe one day, when the consequences finally arrive, many Nigerians will realize something too late. Politics was always interested in them. Years from now, history may ask Nigerians one simple question. When democracy was slowly weakening, what did you do? The greatest tragedy is not oppression. The greatest tragedy is when citizens slowly accept oppression as normal. And this is the horror